Welcome back for Chapter 14 of True Colors. In the last episode, Cassie was drugged with ether and abducted from her boarding house. By who? And why? And where did they take her? All of these answers and more, lots more, will be answered in this episode.
True Colors, Chapter 14. I awoke on a bare cot in an otherwise unfurnished room. Heavy rain battered the roof and walls. A man's raincoat was around me, and the hem of my nightdress was damp. I remained dazed and violently nauseous from the ether, but my recall of the events just prior to passing out was wholly clear. Despite the overwhelming nausea, my wonder at where I was and why this had happened drove me to rise and head for the door. Just as I reached it, it opened, and the two men in federal uniforms who had accosted me in my room entered. "So, you finally came to. I was beginning to think you might never wake up from that stuff after putting you under the last time." I looked from one to the other. "Who are you? And where is this place? And why was I brought here?" "All in good time, ma'am. Now, if you'll just come with us." I followed them into another room, an office of sorts. The younger of the two gestured for me to sit down. As much as it was against my nature to take orders from such an adversary, I sat anyway, on orders from my stomach. The door to the outside opened. A man and a woman raced in, bringing a torrent of rain with them. He turned and shut the door, removed and then shook out his wet raincoat, and wiped his hands dry on his civilian clothes. He was of stocky build, with a waist that hung low over his belt. The woman followed the same routine. When she turned in my direction, I bolted to my feet. "Tess! They got you too? What's going on here? What do they want with us?" She walked over to me and stared coolly into my eyes. "You fool! I was the one who had you brought here. You are a danger to our cause." My jaw fell open as the quiet, isolated woman I had known for 2 years spoke in a loud voice in a vicious tone. "Tell the colonel she's awake," she ordered one of the men, "and I'll prove to him I'm right about this Union spy in our midst." The soldier left immediately. The man in the street clothes came to stand next to Tess. "I'm not so sure." He looked me over thoroughly. "You have such little to go on. He's really upset about this. He'll be grateful when he finds out I've saved his life." A gleam swept through her expression. "Very grateful." "Grateful enough to marry you, maybe?" She shot him a fiery look. "Mind your own business, Brennan. Now leave us, and take that other bumbling soldier with you." He chuckled. "Yes, ma'am." The two men left us alone. Tess turned to me. "Forgive my manners, Cassie. Allow me to be the first to welcome you to Richmond." "Richmond?" "Yes, the capital of our beloved Confederate States of America, and your new home." I stared at her wide-eyed. "This is insane. I'm no spy. I'm no threat to anyone. You can't—" "Ah, but I have, and shall be rewarded in great measure when they see what I've done. Never again will I be confined to the duties of a mere courier or smuggler." I could not believe a word of what I was hearing. This could not be the same silent, no-nonsense woman with whom I had worked side by side. You're a Confederate smuggler?" "A quite excellent one. Neither you nor anyone at the hospital even suspected. Did you never wonder why our hospital ran short on morphine and quinine and dressing supplies so much faster than the others?" "You stole? Sometimes I couriered messages, too. But I've grown weary of such drudgery, and now I shall have a far greater role in the espionage network, and I have you to thank for that, Cassie." Her eyes cast to the side, and she uttered more to herself than to me. "This should even make up for the time I blundered with that soldier, Levine or whoever." "Who?" "Fortunately, his death was attributed to an embolism." I placed a steadying hand on the desk. "You don't mean Sergeant Levitt?" "I only meant to give him enough morphine to make him groggy so he'd tell me where he hid some stupid book everyone thought might be so important. We learned he was bringing it to Washington, and when he turned up at my hospital, I couldn't believe my luck. I stood in the presence of a murderer, and if she should somehow find out what happened to that book that was so desperately sought after, her accusation of my being a threat to their cause would be confirmed in everyone's mind. I had to get away. Oh, Cassie, don't look so stupefied. You've seen scores of soldiers die, but never one that was murdered on his own cot. You're crazed, Tess. Don't you dare say that to me. Don't you give me that look. I've seen it in others' eyes, and I especially won't tolerate it from you. Why not from me? Because you... I what? Every muscle in her tensed, and she shut her eyes tight. I lifted a weighted bookend from the desk and threw it at her. She cried out in pain as it hit its mark, and she fell to the floor. I dashed to the door, flung it open, and sprinted out into a driving rain. I ran past 2 unwary guards on the nearby woods. The downpour made it difficult to see more than a few feet in front of me, but also provided a veil between me and my pursuers. My bare feet were sucked into the mud as I sought cover in a cluster of trees. I struggled on, jagged branches snatching at my face and thorny underbrush tearing at the hem of my nightdress. When my strained legs could carry me no farther, I stopped and leaned against a tree, trying to fight down panic. I feared lingering too long, and when my breath returned, I ran again, my nightdress drenched beneath the open raincoat. I had no idea where I was running. For all I knew, I could be racing straight toward a rebel encampment. But what I came upon was the last thing I expected to see. Despair gripped me as I looked upon the cabin from which I had escaped less than a half hour before. I had run in a complete circle. One of the soldiers caught sight of me and shouted to his comrades. I spun in the mud and struggled to run again. I heard voices coming from several directions through the rain. Terror urged me on. A hand grabbed my arm and stopped me. I screamed and battled to free myself, but my captor held me fast. He slung his rifle onto his shoulder, wrapped strong hands around both of my arms, and pressed me against a large tree. I tried to kick him, but the sucking mud crippled my efforts. The others may have let you slip by him, girlie, but not me. I struggled further, but his grip was firm. Above the sound of the pouring rain, I shouted, "Let go of me, you plug, ugly piece of carrion." "Ooh, you got some bark growing on you, girlie." His lascivious smile revealed a row of rotted teeth. "I like that." He lowered his face, and I turned my head away. As his lips contended for mine, the unmistakable screech of metal sliding against metal pierced the droning sounds around us. The point of a sword pressed into the skin of my aggressor's neck over his carotid artery. "Remove your hands from the lady soldier, or you'll lose them." I was as startled by the voice as was the man who now slowly released my arms, only for an entirely different reason. "Now step away from her." As he did so, I stared at my rescuer. He was draped in a black oilskin rain slicker and wore a dark hat low over his face. I blinked away the streams of raindrops, my heart thundering. "Michael?" A smile flashed from under his hat. "How many times will I have to threaten to cut a man's hands off before you'll stop taking these evening strolls by yourself?" Other similarly apparelled men joined us, and Michael resheathed his saber. Contending with the mud, I hurried toward him, and he caught me in a firm embrace. Even through all the rainwear, I felt him holding me safe. How this could be, I did not know, but my head was whirling at the sight and feel of him. "Michael, how did you find me? How did I get here? What's going on?" "Let me get you into some shelter first." Dismissing everyone, he escorted me into the cabin from which I had escaped. He found 2 blankets in a closet and wrapped them around me. I sat next to the wood stove, shivering as he built up the fire. "You'll warm up soon, darling. Some hot coffee is on the way, too." "What about you? Take off that slicker and take one of these blankets for yourself." "No, I'm fine." He stoked the fire again, then chuckled. "Plug ugly piece of carrion, Cassie?" I offered him a Byron shrug. "I guess I've been around military types too long. Perhaps I should keep my distance from now on. Just try it. He bent low for a hearty kiss. We parted suddenly when the door opened. Someone entered and slammed it against the storm. I glanced up to see Tess, her eyes boring down on Michael and me. I rose and reached for my husband. "Michael, she's one of them. She's the one who had me brought here, and she killed Sergeant Levitt. Don't let her get away." He stood firm in his place, staring icily at the nurse. "You mean you haven't told her yet?" Her cynical tone held no fear of being apprehended. I looked at Michael, bewildered. "Leave here now," he ordered. "Michael, didn't you hear what I said? She murdered Levitt that night you came to see him. She admitted it." Tess ambled to where we stood. "She knows more than she lets on. She may as well know the rest of it. Go on, Michael. Show the lady your true colors." His gaze lowered. He exhaled an unsteady breath. I watched as he began to painstakingly undo the buttons of his slicker, one by one. When the last button was free, he paused, looked upon me with a perplexing countenance, then shrugged off the raincoat. Before me stood my husband in a Confederate uniform. An eerie silence filled the room, broken finally by Tess's snigger. "What's the matter, Cassie? Never met a Confederate officer before?" Michael's voice boomed. "Tess, I'm telling you for the last time to leave us." "Whatever you say, darling. Now!" She laid her hand on his arm. "We have to talk. Alone. When you've finished here, you know where to find me." With that, she turned and left the cabin. Michael and I stood facing each other. I stared in ungovernable astonishment at his gray uniform. 3 gold stars on each side of his collar, 3 gold braids on his sleeve. All denoted the rank of colonel. He stepped toward me. I tensed, and he backed off with a pained expression. You know, Tess? I mean, aside from those times you came to the hospital?" "Cassie, I can't explain everything right now." "Michael, are you—" My eyes darted left and right, and my voice lowered to a conspiratorial whisper. "You're posing as a Confederate officer, right?" The door burst open, and a soldier came in with a message from a Colonel Statler. Michael was to go to him immediately to discuss the situation, which I assumed meant me. He pulled the slipping blankets onto my shoulders. "I'm going to see about getting you out of here. This idiotic notion of hers is the most twisted one yet." He left me with a kiss. Tess returned a short time later carrying a coffee pot and 2 tin cups. After removing her raincoat, she filled both cups and offered me one. I made no effort to take it. "Go on, drink it. It's not poisoned. See?" She took a sip from each mug. My body temperature had fallen during my escape attempt, and I needed warm fluids inside me. Reluctantly, I accepted the coffee and sat on the chair near the stove. "You got 'em all hoodwinked, Cassie, but not me. I heard you tell that good-looking doctor at the Grace Church Hospital that you've been keeping track of Michael through certain channels. I intend to find out what those channels are." "Tess, some officers at the War Department would tell me Michael was still alive. That's the only link I've had to him in over a year. If you had just asked, I could have told you that." "You take me for a fool, don't you? Well, I'm not the one who allowed myself to be duped for nearly 2 years by Southern agents, am I?" "Agents? You and who else?" "Michael, of course." I remained silent, lest I expose his mission here. She threw me an odd glance. "He still hasn't told you, has he?" She pulled a chair over to the stove and sat across from me. "You are so naive, Cassie. Don't you realize yet that Michael has been working for the Confederacy from the very beginning? The whole while he was in Washington, supposedly helping Alan Pinkerton organize an intelligence operation, he was sending vital information to Richmond with the aid of couriers such as yours truly." The coffee in my cup pitched and spilled over the lip. "You really had no idea, did you, poor girl?" "You're a liar, Tess. Just ask him when he comes. Ask him if he hadn't already known me well that night he came to the hospital and met you. We pretended to be strangers, of course, but by then he and I had been lovers for months. My heart felt as if a saber had lanced it through. No, I refused to believe the ranting of this maniacal woman. She was a spy and a murderer, and so convincing was she that for a moment I had nearly given credence to her words. I rose and stormed to the opposite side of the room. He never cared for you, Cassie. As a handsome, unattached officer in the Union Army, he needed a true blue Yankee sweetheart to complete his cover. You were perfect for him, you and all your lengthy discourses on the near-divine attributes of Abraham Lincoln. There wasn't another woman around Washington City who could have helped conceal his identity better than you. I spun around. You know nothing about what was between Michael and me. There never was anything between you. It was all pretense. You're lying. Michael and I were The door flung open and Michael entered along with another soldier, the rain sweeping in with violent force. With some effort the soldier shut the door, then leaned against it and let out a sigh. Michael chucked his hat and slicker onto a chair and came to me. He started to speak, but took notice of Tess slinking in the corner. He hurled the soldier a menacing look. "You let her in here?" The young corporal's face lost color. He lost command of his voice as well. You disobeyed a direct order, soldier." "Michael, darling, don't be such a bear." Tess sashayed to him. "I told him you sent me with coffee for the prisoner, so he let me in. It's hardly a court-martial offense." She slipped her arms around his waist. He took hold of them and wrested free from her. He shot the corporal an icy glare. "Prove to me you can carry out one simple order, and I'll forget your earlier violation. Get this woman out of here and keep her away. Lock her up if you have to. If she gets within 100 yards of Miss Golden again, I'll see to it you spend the rest of the war in the stockade." "Yes, sir." The man grabbed the nurse's arm and led her to the door. She turned, but a glower from Michael had the soldier yanking the door open and dragging her into the rain. Michael closed and bolted the door, then turned to me. Finally, alone with him behind a locked door, I ran into his arms, shutting my eyes to block out the gray of his uniform. This was my husband, and we were together. I allowed no other thought to intrude on this moment. We simply held each other close. Then he lifted my chin, leaned down, and kissed me. When our lips parted, he whispered that he loved me. "I know you do. Nothing that crazy woman said could ever make me believe otherwise." "What exactly did she tell you?" "She's not in her right mind. She said you have been working for the Confederacy all along. She said you and she knew each other long before that first night you came to the hospital." His body stiffened. He turned his face from me, filling me with a disquietude I had never known in his presence. It was a lie, I know." His eyes remained averted from mine. I turned his face to me. "Michael?" There was no response beyond the culpable look in his eyes. I pressed away from him, enshrouded in dread. I waited for a denial, an explanation, but there was only a sepulchral silence. Was it all true?" "I don't know what all she told you, but tell me you weren't working for the Confederacy when we met. Tell me that much." "Cassie, listen to me." "I am listening, but you're not saying what I need to hear. Tell me you did not know Tess the night you came to see Levitt." No such reprieve was forthcoming. "You knew she was going to kill him?" "No. I swear to you she acted totally on her own when she determined to question him." I backed away from him, my hands clenched at my waist. "So you did know her, and you were working for them all the time. All she said was true. You passed her messages to take south along with medicine she stole from the hospital and God knows what else." A horrifying twist of hindsight gripped me. "That book. Levitt entrusted it to me, and I turned around and placed it right into the hands of the very people he offered his life to protect it from. I buried my face in my hands. He stepped to me and placed gentle hands on my arms. "Cassie, you did nothing wrong." I threw his hands off me as if they were crawling insects. "Did you give her that book to bring south? Why doesn't she seem to know what happened to it?" I considered her too unstable to be trusted with something so crucial, even before I learned of what she did to Levitt, which wasn't for weeks after the night you gave me the book. I suppose your rebel colleagues had a good laugh when you told them how easily you obtained it. I didn't involve you in any way. You involved me when you chose me to be the loyal Union sweetheart who made your cover all the more credible. You can't believe that, not after all we shared throughout those months. I don't want to believe it. I have been building a life around the promise of a future with you, a future filled with hopes you said lie in the preservation of the Union. He couldn't even look at me then. And it isn't just me you betrayed. All those men you worked with in the War Department. And Mr. Lincoln. Michael, you protected him on the train to Washington. You dined with him at Dickey's. You cried with him at his son's funeral. Or were those just crocodile tears you shed to enhance your position in his Privy Council? How could you make such a brutal accusation? He studied me for a long moment, then turned away from me. My eyes lowered, for I could not even look at his back when I asked, "Were you and Tess lovers?" He spun to face me. "Only in her imagination. Look, I know it's difficult for you to believe anything I say, but you must believe that there has never been any woman in my life but you. Being away from you has been like the constant twisting of a bayonet in my gut." He took a firm hold of my shoulders and pulled me close. "I didn't choose you to be a pawn in an espionage scheme. I chose you to be my wife and the mother of my children." With him standing this near, his face, his lips only inches from mine, it was hard not to be enraptured by his presence and totally taken in by his words. But there had been other evenings, other conversations where I had hung on his every word, believing in his consummate integrity. I rested from his grasp. I often wondered how I would be able to carry on if I lost you to this war through death, but to discover that you, or at least the Michael Byron I loved and married, never existed. I am him. Cassie, think about it. If your only function was to perfect my cover there, then why am I pleading with you here to believe in my love for you? The ploy would be up. You need me to believe it so that when I go back I won't tell any. His gaze held mine as if waiting for reality to settle on me. When it did, it settled hard. "No, Michael, they can't keep me here. I'll continue to do everything in my power to have you sent back. You have it in your power to deceive the entire Union War Department regarding your loyalties, yet you expect me to believe you can't convince the Confederates to release an innocent woman? They realize it was a tremendous mistake that you were brought here, but the fact is, thanks to Tess Dupree, you now know too much about me. I obviously know nothing about you." Anger I had never felt toward him rose within me. "So then, tell me about yourself, Colonel Byron. Do you have an office in the War Department here, too? Does Jefferson Davis stop in to hear the latest war news come in over the telegraph? Do you dine with him at some quaint tavern? Where do you live? You must be living better on a colonel's salary than you ever did on a major's." "I haven't lived well because I've had to live without you." "How touching. And I, because I gave heed to all of your fables, have lived in constant fear for your life. I envisioned you penetrating hostile territory, mingling with the enemy in their camps, stealing through their cordons with secret documents. And where were you when I awoke with a pounding heart from a dream of you being chased through some swamp or drowned crossing a river under cover of darkness, or hung by men who'd be decorated for heroism for having captured the most successful of Union spies? Where, Michael? Sitting on a porch swing, At your colonial Richmond home with Tess Dupre's arms wrapped around you as she looked longingly into your blue eyes? He grabbed my arms and pulled me close, holding me fast and not allowing me to wrench away. I'll tell you where I was, lying on my bed, alone, my heart drumming and my chest heaving from watching helplessly as you walk home from the hospital and step right into the paws of a lecherous soldier, or from seeing you on the steps of the courthouse reading my name on a list of the dead, but not being able to get to you to tell you it's all a mistake. And when I finally fight my way through the masses of people, I find you in the arms of another man. You have on your wedding dress. His hand plunged into the thick waves of my damp hair. There hasn't been a single night that I haven't locked my door against the dark world outside, wishing to turn and find that you were secure inside with me. Do you have any idea of the number of nights I awoke with desire for you, my sheets drenched with sweat? I'd reached across the bed and feel only emptiness. I ached for you, yearned to feel the softness of your body against mine, and your lustrous hair fall against my cheek as we... A burst of passion completed his thought as his lips pressed mine. I slipped my hands between us and tried to separate our bodies, for I was even more convinced this was not the Michael Byron I loved, and I had no desire to be caught up in the arms of any other man, especially not those of a traitor. I pushed harder, but he was unyielding. Only when my lips broke free from his and I pleaded with him to stop did he loosen his hold on me. "Cassie," he panted, "after 14 months apart, can you spurn me? I don't even know you." "Yes, you do." Open warfare appeared to rage within him, but he ultimately conquered the enemy who would crown passion as king. He removed his hands from me, and he spoke in a soft voice. "I'm the man who sent you a sonnet about loving for love's sake only. The man who held you as you cried over a horrible dream that nearly convinced you you were going insane, and took you to a peaceful haven where your fears were swept away with the waters. I'm the one with whom you shared your secret feelings about your parents being united in death as they were in life. I'm the man who left you standing alone in a wedding dress hidden beneath your cape, and told you I had loved only you." Tears fell as my heart ached for the one man who had shared each of those secret and most special moments. But although this officer in gray looked like him, and spoke like him, and could recall those moments, he was not that man.
He was not the man? This is the man that Cassie has invested 2 years of her life into. You've even invested 13 chapters so far into him. How will this be resolved? Will everything that Michael has in his power to do be enough to let her go home free? Stay tuned for the next episode and find out. Like and share if you would. See you next time.